All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy.
All right, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Austin Newland, thank you for being there in the audience, watching us live on this Thursday afternoon. I don't know who's playing tonight football-wise. We got 69th Blizzard Ken.
Hello.
Marcus Almighty.
Greetings.
And me, the Swedes out there busily disparaging Finland. So there we go. Someone took issue in the last episode about something that was said, but declined to specify what was said. Therefore, we can't respond to what was said and what was not said, and whether any interpretation needed to be reinterpreted in order to make clear what was said. Got it? Clear?
Well said.
Just a reminder to anyone watching this show, 3 out of the 5 regulars are non-Americans. So we all come from different places. Yes, I live in America now, but I was trafficked here as a child against my will. That means my parents moved here. I had no say in the matter. You know what I mean? And then I did come back on my own. So, we're a live show. We don't have scripts. We don't have agendas. We talk about the things that brought us together, which is the music of Kiss. But on everything else in the world, there are a whole ton of different things that we think differently about because we're humans. Don't get offended by what anyone says. Believe what you believe in. Listen to Kiss and turn it up to 11 because life's too damn short. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Bill Phelps, Gregory Pegg, Brent Millhouse. We're doing topics from the board this week. You know what? It is the 15th anniversary of Ace Frehley's resurgence album Anomaly, which came out at this time in 2009, Itchy Nose. And I remember that album coming out, and it was a very exciting time because it had been 20 years of waiting for the spring, and the spring sprung eternal, and the album actually came out in the freaking autumn. That is just so Ace. But he came to San Francisco and went to 107.7, the Bone radio station, and I was able to get it in to be in the studio for that with some other fans. Nothing special. I didn't pull any strings or anything. It's just I happened to work right around the corner from the station at the time, to the point where I'd walk by and Don Dawkins would be standing out front smoking a cigarette, pardon me. So it was no big deal, but it was a very big deal because it was my first time, really getting to interact with Ace, even though it was just handshakes and photos. And I put the photo of me in total fanboy mode up from that day. So good memories. When we think about Anomaly, 10,000 foot view, Mark, where does Anomaly kind of sit for you now when you look back on it, whether you've listened to it recently or not? And for that matter, do you recall the last time you listened to it?
Yeah, I kind of do. Well, when it came out, I got it immediately. I got that one with the, that you open up and it turns into some weird pyramidic shape or something when you have that gatefoldish kind of CD version of it. And then I kind of place it sort of in the middle. It's not, I don't think it's his best, but it's not his worst by any stretch of the imagination. There's some good songs on there, but the last time I actually listened to it actually was I got a picture disc version of it when they did a sort of a special release of it a few years back already, when they did like a double picture disc version of Anomaly, and I bought it then and I checked it out then because they had like a couple of bonus songs on there, so I checked it out then. Honestly, that was probably the last time that I listened to it. I'm more of a Spaceman. I really like that record, the one that Gene helped him with a couple of songs. That's always been my sort of go-to, much to the surprise of many Kiss fans. That's my numero uno Ace, and then followed by Trouble Walking, and then I'm not including 78, of course. That's always going to be number one.
No, you can't include 78 because that's a completely different level. Yeah. That's like in interstellar space, and the rest are just in orbit around the sun. It was such an exciting time. I was thrilled that he did Sister. Finally, that song, because I loved that going back to the riff originated in 87. So that was an ancient riff that became a song with Richie and that really powerful and attractive lineup that he had in the 90s that never, they teetered on the brink of self-destruction, really. So they've released or put up for pre-sale, I think it's 800 copies of each of yet more vinyl. I got to scroll down our topic list because they've got the Anomaly Cobalt Splatter vinyl and the Anomaly Neon Green Cornetto vinyl. Ken, I'm going to buy those to add to your collection. The cover is different than the cover that you just put up for your box. And you're muted.
You're muted.
Why? Anyway, I don't think so because this is good enough. This one here, that's a pretty nice vinyl that they put out.
That's
you
great.
Always buy the variants.
The double vinyl.
You always buy multiples.
It's no, not with Ace because
you're the multiple guy.
There is too many with Kiss. Even Kiss. I will for the most part, but. Not,
how many versions of 10,000 volts did you buy? You got like 9 of them, didn't you? Like different variants?
No.
I
think I got the one. I got the one.
I didn't get any. I just got CD.
One CD and one vinyl. I don't think I got any other. Nope. No.
Surprise.
I kind of stopped it because it's becoming ridiculous. I mean, they have like 50 different colors, so I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's just crazy at this point.
Okay, musically, where does it sit for you these days, Ken?
I mean, I like Anomaly. It's a pretty darn good release by him. I was pleasantly surprised by the music that he had on there. It probably ranks up there pretty high in his solo stuff. I mean, you got the 78, you got Trouble Walking is really good. Free Lace Comet's really good. The new one.
Oh, nice.
The new one is really good. I think it falls right behind or around that where the new one is. Anomaly. Maybe just behind it. I kind of like that new one, the way it sounds and the catchy songs. So it's right. It's pretty far up there as far as the most recent stuff that he's been putting out the last number of years. It's one of the better ones, so I like it.
All right, Mark, there you go. There's the one you like better.
There you go. Yeah.
I think these might even still be available. But these are the silly little cassette boxes that came out, but they were very cool, so I had to buy one. Opal Archive, G Chup, who else? Scott Hawk. Tim Kopp, thanks for joining us. So Opal Archive had just a comment. So since we're doing topics from the board and you guys are here live, let's just do one from the audience because, Mark, this will be in your wheelhouse. Talk of being offensive. Anyone heard the new Queen remix? Well, have you? And what do you think?
No, actually, I have not heard the new Queen remix at all. I mean, what I must ask.
Is it the first album?
What it?
Yeah,
oh, you mean the whole album? You mean you're talking about? Okay.
Queen 1.
No, I haven't heard Queen 1. And the funny thing is, Queen 1 and Queen 2. Queen 2, in fact, is probably my favorite next to News of the World. I really like that album as well. But Queen 2 was always one that I really enjoyed, and Queen 1 was surprisingly very good considering how much time they needed to do it, and they had to go in all those off hours to do it. The typical story of the first record with a band that doesn't have much of a money or that great a contract at that time to do it. So yeah, I mean it turned out pretty good. It's not bad, but I do want to take a listen to it. Does anybody know who remixed it? This isn't one of those Giles remixes, is it?
I have no idea. I'm not a big enough fan of Queen to really give a shit. I've listened to the single that came out and I thought it sounded fine. I've never been a particularly big fan of early Queen outside of the hits. Queen, you got to remember that, like a lot of the groups, I got into Queen in 1980, upstate New York, summer camp, Camp Poco Moonshine, if anyone knows of that. All that summer in 1980, you'd hear Queen on the boombox. And it's just, again, it's soundtrack of my life, but I didn't get into them. I heard Judas Priest at that time as well. I didn't get into them. I got into Queen with Kind of Magic. So right at the end. I mean, I had Queen's greatest hits, but the first album didn't do a lot for me. I've spent a lot of time over the past week listening to Rockarola, that redo, and that's actually it's too tinny and shrill. I think I said this last episode, but now that I've dug more into the mixes and what they've left on there, which is a lot more of where they would have had the fade outs on the original. So you get to hear a little bit more of the beginning and ending on that's most of the songs. So it is kind of neat just to hear from that perspective, but I prefer the sonics with a more traditional sound to them than the very tightly trebled sonics of the remaster or remix, whatever the hell it is. Ken, Queen One, heard any? Care? Don't care?
I have Queen One on original pressing on vinyl, but which is, I think it's a pretty good album, first album, and but I haven't heard any of the new remix. I'll have to check it out.
Opal, was that to my kind of magic comment or what? I also love Highlander. So.
Highlander, oh my god,
Highlander was fucking awesome.
That album was connected.
Flash Gordon.
I didn't like Flash Gordon, but I did like Highlander, and I've got the DVD tin with the extra bonus CD of the alt soundtrack songs that Queen did as well. So sorry, we like what we like. There we go. We don't all get in on the same, floor on the elevator. But there we go. Let's get back to some Kiss topics before we get completely sidetracked. There's a new Kiss fan project that's been announced, and it's the history of Kiss in Belgium and Holland. I've said this. I keep saying it. I want to see these projects from the people in those countries. Where I did Mass Hysteria, I still want to see Hysteria done by Aussies, compiling everything from the Australian Kiss history. I want to see, And Die Arbeit Deutschland. Come on, Germany. Let's see the Germans put it together for all of the German tour histories as well. And then Scandinavians, I guess, if you can stop disparaging yourselves long enough and get the Danes, the Norse, the Swedes, and the Finns to work together, you could cover all of that. So there's a link to it on the FAQ Jean cover design, or I don't think I have the link right here, right now. Has a Facebook page as well where you can get in touch. Oh, I hope they do what I do with some of these, some of the international press clippings that I've done for War Machine, and I did it for Mass Hysteria. I put them through the translation machine. While they're utilizing AI, once you edit them, you can make them human readable. Again, trying to be exact linguistically is a pointless exercise left best to Tolkien fans. Mark.
Yeah. Well, we're still talking about Queen One, or what are we talking about now? I kind of lost track of where we were going with this.
Kiss projects.
Kiss projects. Oh yeah, yes. So yeah, the book though, I really do hope that it does have some sort of English to it, because I love supporting these kinds of books. And, that's always been the disappointment. I know Daniel showed a couple of times some of these really cool ones that are in Swedish only. That would be great to have gotten a copy of in English, right? But I'm so leery of these auto translators. I mean, I'm a big watcher of Japanese wrestling, as you know, and sometimes they have the closed captioning that'll translate into English. And it's so weird. Like they'll talk about, he hit him in the corner and then he got him with a bowl of chicken soup. I'm like, what? What the hell are you talking about? Like it'll just go into something completely off. Like, I don't know what they're trying to. It's probably some slang that they use in Japanese that it doesn't translate properly, right? So I'm hoping that if they do that it's something that's a little bit more.
Well, that's why you edit.
Up-to-date.
That's why you don't just trust them, and you use multiple AI systems. It is actually usable or serviceable in most cases. I never got any feedback from the Let Me Know podcast for the deep fake AI I did for translating my voice into Swedish. reading the intro section.
Oh, yeah.
So I never heard whether I sounded like I was talking about flying donkeys and elephants or whether it made any sense.
Sounded good, whatever it was.
You know, there was a Dutch fanzine back in the day that used to be split-sided, and I can't remember the title of it. Kiss Explorer, I think it might have been, but I don't remember. And half was in Dutch and half was in English. So
That's nice.
that was very cool. And Dutch has, you know, quite a lot of relation with English. Same with German, for that matter. So
Yeah.
but it would be nice if they did something in that style, like the Kiss Army Spain did for their Madison Square Garden. But
Yeah.
they did a version in Spanish and a version in English for everyone else. So very cool. But congratulations to the Belgians and the Dutch for
Now,
hopefully bringing this to life.
sorry, but you know, now that you're talking about that, I don't imagine this would make any sense. But you having done so many of these kinds of books and having an experience of doing this, would there even be a reason to do a Canadian style book, or is that too similar to the American story to even bother to have a Canadian?
No, I think
It's in Canada.
Canada should totally do its own damn book, but do you do it in French or do you do it in English?
Well,
Because
they do it in
can't-
English.
You can't upset the Quebecois. can you?
Yes, yeah. Well, maybe we can do some of the quotations and split English and.
Isn't this like Wales, that all signs have to be in French and English in Canada?
Yeah, they do that a lot, especially in parts of Quebec. Well, in some deep in Quebec, they have only French now, which is, you know, they're really pushing for that. But yeah, a lot of the stuff is split language here, which is okay. I don't have a problem with that. It actually keeps my French sort of a little bit, you know, up to date, so to speak. So
Cricket.
Do I follow cricket? Yes, I do on occasion, but only the Ashes, which are best not talked about these days. But there we go. Adam, North Carolina, thanks for joining us. Craig, of course, thanks for joining us. Let's jump into a real topic rather than a news page. So I've got like 5 manuscripts open right now. So Bandit 1974 and creature stuff. You know, the board at the moment has a lot of Vinny and a lot of creatures, and obviously with me working on War Machine, my mind's in the creatures era as well. He or she asked, what if Kiss, Paul and Gene at this point, had held off releasing Creatures of the Night for about 6 months? They accept the fact that they've lost Ace and everything is squared away with their recording contract. So I guess the question is, would it have made a difference, in your opinion, whether Kiss had delayed and had more time on the back end to build up their new image in the press before releasing the heavy album? I was immediately a killjoy because I immediately pulled the pencil out from behind my ear and tapped the screen and said, but the contract said, because I can't suspend reality. In that sense, they were really hogtied by delivery date deadlines, being unrecouped on a shit ton of money going back to the European Unmasked tour, the Unmasked album, The Elder, you know, and Killers hadn't had much time to do anything. So, Ken, would it have made a difference if you had to wait 6 more months to go to those 3 shows?
Well, it would have made they were already lost it as far as fans and the press and all that stuff. They were already off the chart. It wouldn't have made any difference. It might have been even worse. The album might have even sold worse by delaying it, to tell you the truth. And to try to promote, you know, do some kind of promotion. I think they lost a lot of their, you know, again, their support. The people that dropped off after either Dynasty, Unmasked, The Elder, whatever. It was too far gone at that point. So I think holding off was not a good idea. Would not have been a good idea, because that would have probably delayed the Lick It Up, Make Up Off release too. You know, that would have delayed too, and that was the thing. They maybe, if they delayed and took the makeup off for Creatures, then I think they would have maybe stirred up some more interest, like they did with Lick It Up when that did come out. So that's, you know, that's revisionist kind of thing, but I think it might have helped in that sense if they took off the makeup.
Revisionism is fine when we're talking about fantasy anyway. But you know what? They were deader than dead at that point. once they got rid of Allcoin management and the people who were formerly the press office, they lost, they really disappeared from the press to a large extent. They were still in the press because Gene was dating Diana Ross, Miss Diana Ross. Ace was barely in the press, but he did show up here and there. Paul, a little bit because of his relationship with Donna Dixon, but they just would have fallen further and further behind what they were trying to catch up to. Yeah. Though you almost think that since there was a delay between finishing the album and then deciding, well, they had legal problems with 2 Vinnie songs and had to write and record another one. They should have dropped a single there. So I don't think they should have waited. I think they should have gotten a single out, anything in advance, rather than going the other direction and just slipping into further obscurity. Don't forget, Creature sold half as much as The Elder. That's how much damage had been done. Mark.
Wow. Well, I mean, because that's the thing, that the contract thing is always a big thing. Don't forget, they had a pretty big, advance on that contract when they signed that time. I remember reading it in the Chris Lent book, that $2 million advance, so $1 million from the North American end and $1 million from the European end for each record. So for them to wait and to come out and say, okay, let's just clarify, let's get rid of Ace and let's come clean and stuff, they would have lost a lot of cash. They would have got probably taken over the coals there and said, no more Ace, no recontract, new contract, and then they would have lost tons of cash like they did later on, apparently, when they had to renegotiate again. But I don't think they should have taken the makeup off, for example, because that name, Creatures of the Night, they did some of the best, at least in my opinion, some of the best artwork and some of the great posters that they did with the makeup still and those costumes. Mm-hmm. They took the makeup off and did it. I mean, what are they going to do with that? Creatures of the Night in street clothes? I mean, just wouldn't have looked, as impactful as it did when they did it into that kind of purple and that sort of, black light sort of imagery that they were able to use. And then with the glow in the dark stuff that they were doing, I think that really did it. But that goes to show you how little that even helped. It sold half as much as The Elder. I mean, I think the only way they would have been able to sell more copies if they would have offered $100 bill in each record for everyone who bought one. Then maybe
real Kiss money.
Yeah, we'll give you money if you buy it. Maybe it would have sold. But it's an interesting time period. I mean, they did so many things incorrectly at that time period, and the landscape was changing as well musically. We've already gone through this a bunch of times, right? And I think that's really the main culprit, was that there was a lot of bands that were coming up that were really considered cool, and Kiss was starting to look uncool at the time, right? So they had to change up their image at that time, right? And look it up.
82. You've got Priest, Maiden, Def Leppard. Def Leppard with 10 arms, it was a different band, because come on, Rick playing with an electronic kit completely changes the dynamic. And Mutt had already done that to him, Pyromania.
Yeah, it already sounded
the drums
like
with samples for everything. Playing the imagine. It already neutered the drummer before he had his accident. But there were so many bands. Crocus in that period was
Quiet Riot.
Scorpions. Quiet Riot was about to. Because they hit in 83. Def Leppard hits in 83. Rat is sitting in the background as well, I think, by that time. So
83, you said 83, so maybe even Dio with the solo record was probably coming out at that time too. Holy Diver and stuff like that.
Well, 82 is okay. Crocus is maybe not the best. Neither would be Anvil or Headpins.
Y&T.
Y&T. Good Rats. Helix. That sounds like we're ganging up on Canada now. There we go.
Well, I never had anything. I don't know. Helix were okay, but there were nothing really to write home about.
Yeah. So my thought is they just would have been falling too far behind by waiting 6 months. They couldn't, and Polygram wanted money.
I'll be right back.
Hence why they did Kiss Killers. So it was all about money. All right, here we go. Satan Sinner 83. It looks like a director, Mac G, McG has been attached to the Kiss Biopic, and that one seems to be going through the trawler, much like Spinning Gold did. I mean, remember when that was attached to Justin Timberlake, and then you got the Wish version that actually comes out, which was a shit sandwich.
Who wants to do it and pull straws?
Yeah,
they don't have to direct it.
You know, the Saint and Sinner's comment was, this guy is attached to Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, which I've never seen. I've never seen Charlie's Angels. The only thing I've ever seen or heard for the movies is Angel Eye by Aerosmith. Terminator Salvation, and he says most of his films are in the 20 to 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know what that means, other than it doesn't sound like it's going to be any more successful than The Rings of Power, which probably means that everything dangerous would be taken out of it. But what the fuck did they focus on in a biopic? We've talked about it before. Mark, I don't know how much of that you heard while you were away.
I didn't hear any of it. Sorry.
Oh, that's a shame. I'm not repeating myself. McG attached to doing the Kiss biopic. He's done Charlie's Angels Full Throttle and Terminator Salvation. And I was just asking Ken whether he has an opinion on this change to the biopic, that it seems to still be a possibility, but it seems to be going downward trajectory.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing with the biopic, I remember when the biopic was mentioned, and I find that there was a time period back when there was a guy, somebody with I think his last name was Parker, who was doing one of the versions of it.
Alan G. Parker.
Yeah. And I remember there was big hype around that. And I remember me and David Donnelly were talking about that, because I think he actually knows Parker personally. So, and of course he wasn't able to tell me anything, because that was really private business about that. But, after that kind of went the way of the dodo bird, anytime I heard anything about biopics and that, I kind of got to the whole rolling of the eyes, syndrome now with it, because it's like, really, I've heard about a biopic hundreds of times. Even when they were talking about, doing when they did the Motley Crue one, there was talk about it. Whenever there's one coming out, there's always talk about a Kiss one, and it never comes out. I even read once they're saying that, they've already picked actors for the people. I'm like, okay, well, I've heard that before too. So I don't know. I would see it if it came out, but until I actually see evidence that this is actually going to happen, I have no, excitement about this at all.
Yeah, my opinion's clouded by my preconceptions. Ken, your turn now.
Yeah, okay. It's been how long since they first announced they're gonna do some of that?
It's been this long.
Yeah. That's long. But I don't know what to think about it anymore. I'll believe it again. This is one of those things where I'll believe it when I actually see it.
Amen.
Yeah. I'd rather them have if they can get Chris Nolan to produce, direct, which would never happen, of course. Still, that may not even turn out good, because who knows? But I know they're going to do the early years, that sort of thing, up to probably Alive or something like that, or Destroyer. I think that was the idea, the premise of it all. But I don't know. This director, those movies that he's directed, they're just B. I think of them as like B movies, are not the best movies in the world. So, but maybe he'll be good enough for Kiss. Maybe Kiss will be a different thing, a different kind of animal, different kind of movie, because it's not fictional, unless Paul and Gene have their input.
But, that's ancient, Mark. That one.
So
we'll just
have to wait and see.
I was just going to say, while we were talking about creatures, I just want to say that I pulled out this fantastic book. If anybody doesn't own this, you should really look into these.
If anyone doesn't own it, it's no longer available.
Well, but these sorts of books are fantastic if you have the opportunity to buy it. And I was looking here because you were talking about should Kiss have delayed during Creatures. I know we're going backwards here, but just really quickly humor me. The January 14th Maple Leaf Gardens show. It wouldn't have been optimal for Kiss to have waited, because we had 9,565 people, which is 95.65% of the audience like Capacity showed up at Maple Leaf Gardens for Kiss on the tour. So we were loving Creatures in Toronto. So, maybe it wouldn't have been a, good idea
and
to
then
do.
look at Quebec, and then look at Ottawa.
Yeah, Quebec was 65%, and Ottawa was also 70%. And I mean, Glen Falls was 60%, Rochester was 87%.
And most of these were half house.
Yeah, and then see, like right here, that's exactly what you were saying. Portland, this is the Cumberland Civic Center, which is only 4,500. That's like 96%.
Yeah, that's a 7,000 seater, I believe, or 6,000 or 7,000, like Broome County.
Yeah, so this is bad. Chattanooga, Tennessee, 11,000 capacity, only 4,000 people showed. So, but in Toronto, and here, people get books like this. This will really,
Yeah, there is a 50th anniversary edition out. At least I celebrated the group's 50th anniversary, even if they didn't. I want to go back to Gregory Pegg, had a good comment. There aren't any real good Kiss stories that translate well into a movie. And I agree and I disagree. It's us, the fans, that have created all the drama over the years. Yes and no. I think there are a lot of really great stories. I mean, from the club days, working on the Ace project, hearing some of the stories that haven't yet been told. There is great stories for the club era. 74 tour, there are great stories, but locking road managers in anvil cases, touring with, showing up to play a band and it's the fake version of Fleetwood Mac, shit like that. Shows with the
Ace
dolls.
almost drowning in the tub.
The flash paper and the fan.
Yeah, the flash paper, guns, bullets, and a lot of things.
There's a lot of things.
Some of the racism with J.R. Smalling in the South, the stories that have been told by he and Sean, having Sean and Bill, boyfriends, as managers. I mean, that's pretty. You're not inserting diversity into the story when the story is always a shitload of diversity already in it for 1974.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of elements. Now, do these string together as a story? That's my problem, because there's a lot of vignettes. There's a lot of awesome bits and pieces, but how do you structure that into a narrative that sequentially tells the story of the early years of Kiss up to where would it go, 75, or does it have to go to Beth? It kind of has to go to Beth, because that's.
But you need like somebody, and I know this is probably tacky to use him, but you need somebody like a Peter Jackson, somebody who can take massive thing like how he took like the Lord of the Rings and did all these things,
ruined it.
Okay, but he was able to make it into a concisely flowed thing. Because like the books, the problem with the books, there was too much focus on one thing for like half a book, and then all on the other side there was it was a rough read.
No.
Tough read, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Tolkien. I mean, the
Two
Rings of
Towers
Power
was
is so
terrible that way.
I'm sorry, the Rings of Power is so bad on Amazon Prime that I've actually dug out my copy of the Silmarillion to read. It's because it's just awful. It's fan fiction at its worst, written by people who hate the characters and the time that they were written in. Just absolutely disgusting stuff. But there we go. All right, where were we? Oh yeah, we're doing a show. All right, so I think that's enough on the biopic.
Yeah.
I've been triggered.
Believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and there you go. Opal Archive again. Peter's story would be quite good. Yeah. Imagine Wicked Lester performing live with their Animal Zoo intro that I don't know whether it ever became reality, but Gene had sketched it out, notes for it in one of his notebooks, starting with animal barnyard sounds, becoming tigers roaring, and he had a
monkeys.
Whole thing. Yeah, it sounds absolutely Twilight Zone meets Psycho Circus, absolutely ludicrous. And then you have Peter playing in the King's Lounge in a mob joint, which would be kind of cool, or maybe his greaser band. And then you've got Ace, and I'm not giving away any of the cool shit that could be there. You'll have to read the book when it comes out. All right, let's get back into Deuce. Had a good topic. I don't know why Gene and Paul get so much shit for wanting to continue after Ace and Peter decided they wanted to bail. They're the two main songwriters and de facto band leaders. And some of the examples that he used were Jane's Addiction just imploded. Jane's Addiction, the preview of Oasis on tour. Watch it on YouTube for free and save the effort. REO Speedwagon just announced that it's going to retire at the end of the year because of differences between Kevin Cronin and the bassist. The bassist, whoever listens to the bassist. Motley Crue continued without Mick Mars. Motley Crue stabbed Mick Mars in the back and then in the front. And no disrespect to John Five for filling in, but the Stones continued after Charlie. The Stones can't stop rolling because they are the Stones. AC/DC continued without Bond. They continued without
continue without
Ryan
Anderson.
Yes.
So it does the stick that Kiss get simply revolve around the fans' emotional attachment and delusions with the makeup, or are we judging all these different bands? Look at Judas Priest. The latest album, Invincible Shield, getting a load of respect. Angel getting quite a lot of respect for its most recent 2 albums. And if you didn't realize Angel was still around, they are. And it's the 2 guys. It's Punky and Frank Domino. So, Mark.
Well, I mean, look, I've said this before. Having the pleasure of doing this podcast and then also doing the Yes one, the fan bases are surprisingly similar in a lot of ways. I mean, you got here Paul and Gene getting heat about continuing on without those guys, right? But in the Yes world, it's the same thing. You have the committee that's like no John Anderson, no Yes, which is crap, and stuff like that. And it happens I think in every band. I mean, the funny thing is, we always joke about this, is that the only band that didn't have a problem, Rush on Run, nobody gave a shit that when Neil Peart came in, So there you go. So, but I mean, I think it's every band goes through this, especially if you're a band that changes members, on a frequent basis. I mean, I can't think of very many bands that have had the same exact lineup through its entire existence. It's been very rare that that's happened, right? I mean, but I love the Stones. When Charlie, you would have thought that when Charlie died, then that would have been the end of it, But no, I mean, they continue as long as Mick and Keith are in there, and Ronnie, I think too. Then it'll be smooth sailing, I think, for those guys, But but some bands will do that though. I mean, Rush, again, when Neil died, they said they weren't going to continue, and they haven't. They
were already winding down, and his death.
Yeah, they were already.
It just made it irrevocable.
Yeah, he didn't want to continue in the live capacity. They could have probably did studio stuff somewhere down the line, but
he died.
He
didn't want to continue with the live. He didn't have a choice.
Yeah, but the thing is, they didn't know. There was nothing about his illness when they were going through that. He just had problems health-wise, like as far as his joints and stuff like that. The cancer thing came much later. That was never an issue with him leaving the band, at that point. But anyways, I mean, stuff happens. I mean, look at Def Leppard is a great example of this. They could have easily continued on with another drummer and left Rick Allen out of the fold, but they stuck with him, and they're still together now, that band, So there you go. And I know you always shake your head because they don't have the small guy anymore, and they don't have Rick Allen with both arms. But they were still able to continue doing stuff. I know you're not a big Phil Collins guy, but
I am. I love Phil. Don't get me wrong. I love girl Phil. I don't like Phil noodly Bumblebee Phil.
Yeah, he's a little noodly now.
He became just way too noodly, which is, I always preferred Viv, because Viv has much more. Well, he's also edited by them, but
but he's bluesier and tastier.
He's from the Irish, blues rock school. So when you throw in guys like Gary Moore,
yes,
Rory Gallagher,
is definitely an influence on him.
Yeah,
and that's the whole thing. I mean, like I said, with me personally, I think that this is something that's not only in Kiss. This whole, letting Gene and Paul have it, about the whole moving on without members. I mean, just get over it, guys. I mean, come on, like.
Yeah, should they? I mean, come on, all these bands, it's the career, it's what they do. If they want to continue with, making the band go forward, that's fine. Some people have a problem with it where they say, well, you should rename the band to something else if you're not going to be, those original members or whatever. But, what would the original member, if they died, would they want you to just stop? I don't think so.
No.
Bon Scott or whatever. I'm sure he would have wanted his mates, to continue on forward. As for for instance, Ace and Peter, would they want this? Yeah, they probably want them to stop because from their
That's ego talking, though.
That's more about ego, and they probably don't want them to succeed somehow without them because they feel they're needed for them to be the success they are, which is in a way it was kind of proven in a way when we did the reunion, right? So that kind of was a proving point at that point because the popularity
for a period
happened. Yeah, for a period till everything, the wheels fell off again. And
Psycho Circus proved otherwise.
But then after that, the makeup and everything just kind of kept going and took over, and it is what it ended up being. So, which is okay.
The one thing, and if we want to go to another topic, I'll just leave it at this last comment. The one thing that people sometimes seem to forget is that there's a lot of people who depend on these bands for their own livelihood. Tech people, people who are helping the band in tours and stuff like that. And if these guys call it quits, it's not just them calling it quits. A lot of people are out of work after that as well. So sure. It's a business. You have to think about it from that end of it. If we look at it too simply, these guys should just pack it in after this guy dies. Okay, great, but you have then after 50 people calling the band members saying, "Oh my God, I'm out of a job. What am I going to do?" And blah blah blah. So you have to think of the big picture sometimes.
Gotta make a living.
Yeah, and look, after the farewell tour, I mean, Peter had obviously exited because his contract was up and he didn't get what he wanted and they weren't going to offer him any more. But, Paul ran into challenges in his personal life. I don't want to go into details of personal lives that changed the whole equation, through divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a reason to want to continue because that was also a little bit like what Opal Archive mentioned, that it's a way of life. And yeah, I understand the rationalization of, we weren't happy, with some of that stuff during the tour with those guys. So we're moving on. And come on, those guys had sold their rights out of the Kiss business, because it had been the right thing for them to do at those times. So it was a very emotional thing. I mean, I remember the uproar. We all do. And some people never got over it. 2000 was the end for a large segment of the Kiss Army, just because they did not like the idea of people who weren't Peter and Ace touring wearing that makeup. And that's probably why it was the smartest thing possible to put Eric in that makeup first, because he was already a member of Kiss family. So, and that was loved by a lot of an era of fans because of Revenge and the 92 to 95 period and those powerful lineups. So if it had been some schmuck, some hire a gun, I think it would not have been as palatable to those who eventually got over that. And come on, it is a business. It's what's Andrew saying?
Yeah.
The lack of creativity amusing in the final 20 years. That's
not a lot of creativity.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. That's a whole different topic for a different day. I'm eternally grateful that we got Monster and Sonic Boom, but boy, do they both need a serious remix and a bit of AI magic's pixie dust to help them. Just when we know as well that there are unreleased songs in the archives, it just fucking really grinds my gears.
Yeah,
there are even songs with varying levels of completion that could be, done up in a manner akin to A Different Kind of Truth and Van Halen revisiting some of their early stuff. But there we go. Gene and Paul did what Gene and Paul had the right to do. All right, September. It's that time of year that a Kiss album used to drop. Yes. Remember those things in the 80s?
Yeah.
Wow, what a run we had in the early to 87, 88. No, November for The Elder, October for Creatures, September, November for Smashes, and then October for Hits. So that's the 80s. It's that time of year. So what are your 10,000-foot thoughts on some of the albums that we're not refocusing on at the moment? Lick It Up just had its birthday. Ken?
One of my thoughts on that Lick It Up album. I think
60-second view, not a 5-minute monologue.
It's one of their, I would call it a comeback album, and one of their greatest albums that they've ever produced, done. That's at least in the 80s. That is my go-to album for the non-makeup era Kiss. I think it just turned out great, and I go back to it a lot. It's definitely in my top 10 out of the 20. So no problem. Maybe top 5 even. I don't know. It's close to that, but 5 to 10, somewhere in there.
Yep. Mark, Lick It Up.
Well, Lick It Up. That was one of the ones that were in September, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So
correct.
The reason why I just asked that is because one thing I vividly remember, and I promise I'll keep it short, is that in high school and or school in general, I remember that this was all the talk, Lick It Up, no makeup, my sister's friend, my older sister, talking about this, removal of the makeup and stuff like that. So it was a very big time at that period, and I think one of the reasons why they do these releases in September is because of that. It's school's back. What a good time to put out a new record, because you want to get word of mouth circulating quickly. There you go. Just give it to a bunch of kids who are excited about it, and they start telling 2 friends, and then so on and so on and so on, and boom boom.
Yep, agree.
Yep. Lick It Up. There's a new bootleg out there called, I think it's Don't Want to Wait Till I Know You Better. It's one of those European presses that has updated sources for a lot of those demos that have circulated for a very long time.
The Lick It Up box.
Oh Jesus, don't get me started. That could have been so fucking awesome.
Ken in that box.
All right, so let's go with another September album. Mark, Asylum.
Yes. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I mean, like I said before, that was one of those times where I was really excited about, Kiss at that time, and when I discovered that record, and even in my vinyl collecting times when I went back to it, because, the Canadian pressings of it had those unique center labels that, and I was like, ooh, there's a different label that Canada got. And, so that whole album had such a great memory for me. And even the cassette, I remember buying the cassette of Asylum, and there was 2 different Canadian versions of the cassette too. They had these different kinds of labels for them and stuff. It was fun, and I really loved that album, and I was really gung-ho, at that time in my guitar playing, as well, because when I discovered that record, it was great. I mean, I always bring up that Bruce Kulick instructional guitar video. What a great thing that was, and it shows you a lot of the licks from Asylum. So it really just stroked my Asylum love. So the only thing about it was just the outfits, and but other than that, that didn't really bother me too much. I was mainly into the music and stuff like that. So,
did you never have a Billy Squier phase?
Oh, Billy Squier.
No Billy Squier for me.
We had a couple.
I know, but that video that
one
really
video
posted his career.
That video.
That ruined him there.
All right, Ken, Asylum.
Asylum. I still remember going into Tower Records, and I knew it was coming out, and I got it on the first day, and I remember looking at the cover, and I was like, oh, that's not the best cover that they've ever done. But, took it home, and the music was great, hard rock and stuff, which is what I expected from Kiss, and a lot of good stuff. I remember hearing Tears Are Falling on the radio before the album was released. I mean, I heard it without announcement, and I was like, that sounds familiar, and I realized that, that sounds like Paul. I think this is Kiss. It must be the new, it was kind of an excitement kind of thing, hearing a new Kiss song and not knowing it was coming. So that was cool. A good album, one of the better ones of the 80s. So when they were still rocking before the Crazy Nights thing. So
Yeah. No, obviously, with becoming a fan with that album, it always takes me back to a happy place when I see the anniversary pop up. I don't celebrate it as much. I don't, change the theme on the message board into the Asylum theme. I don't get my neon gloves on and start doing crazy hand
You
dancing.
don't?
No. I don't whip
like
out
to
a
see that.
guitar and start playing any of the songs. I'll dig out a concert from the tour. I will dig out. Well, I'll play the digital because I'm not digging out any LPs to play. It
You
takes
need
too
a pro
fucking long.
shot from that.
Andrew again. No nonsense album. Absolutely, it's a New York album. It's a no nonsense.
Yeah.
What were the T-shirts they were selling in New York? Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, sort of album. This is New York, yo. Take it or leave it. And yeah, it's dated in many ways in terms of costuming, in terms of imagery and videos, and it's cheesy and it's good. It's a warm blanket of memories of being 14, just like for those people who maybe were 14 or 7 with Destroyer and their fandom. It takes them back to hopefully a place before they had to worry about paying bills, getting to work, or the grind that is life. So Asylum will always be a happy place to go back to. And I guess the last thing to celebrate in September are the solo albums. Ken, right now, right here, no time to think, which solo album you pulling out of the hat to play?
Gene Simmons.
Yeah, it's
That's
predictable.
not surprising.
Couldn't you just say Peter Criss for once?
Okay, Peter Criss.
All right, there you go.
I like it more than I used to back in the day. I like it more as the years go by.
Yeah, I'm actually pulling Ace at the moment.
There you go.
I have been listening to a lot of Ace, and damn it, that is such a fine album. I used to always put Paul's at the top for my personal taste, but boy, Ace's credible rock and really shows a guy who's growing outside the confines of a band and finding his voice. Is it perfect? Pretty damn close. Still not sure about
Really
the
good.
instrumental, but a lot of the songs are really good.
Yeah.
So today I'm going with Ace. Sorry, Peter. Mark.
Yeah, this has always been difficult for me because both of my top ones have always one little problem with it. I mean, I still would probably go with Paul, but Hold Me, Touch Me is always kind of a sour point in that album. But the same thing with Ace for me. The Fractured Mirror is kind of like it's not the best song either. But I don't know. I've always went more with Paul because I like his singing. He's the best vocalist that Kiss had. So
Who?
Paul.
Who's the best? Okay, I thought you said Ace for a second.
No. No, I mean Ace has a unique voice, but I don't think he's the best singer.
Yeah, and Opal again's spot on with his voice doesn't carry a whole album, which is why it's why I miss Richie, because Richie did help break up stuff. Well,
yeah. But those solo albums, though, were fantastic. I mean, that was one of my, my big thing when I was getting back into collecting vinyl was getting myself a fully perfect, US copy, complete with the poster, with the merch sheet, all that stuff. And I did finally get all 4 records, even Peter's. And, Peter's wasn't, it was always the one I hated the most. But as years have gone by, it doesn't really rub me as bad as it did back in the days. There's things in there that are, decent.
All right, we've got 2 more topics. First one should be pretty quick. Would Kiss have had more top 40 hits if they let Peter Criss sing more lead vocals? I'm going first on this because Hard Luck Woman, they did let him sing more hard. And how did that do? No, Kiss was not a singles group. They got lucky with one, and afterwards it took a few years to get lucky with another. What was Rocket Ride a paper hit? But I Was Made for Loving You was the next big hit, and that was 3 years later. So no, I don't think it would have helped, because again, they tried to engineer it with Hard Luck Woman by having Paul write Peter the song that he thought Peter should sing like that, and it was calculated and didn't work as great as a song as it was. Ken?
Yeah, I don't think having more songs with Peter. I mean, I enjoy his voice. I think he actually should have had more, but I don't think it would have made a difference as far as hits, because the radio was just not going to play Kiss very often in the first place. But I would have enjoyed more Peter lead singing vocals on Kiss albums. Definitely.
Yeah, that topic was by Legs of Steel, by the way, for anyone who cares. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, from all the books that I've read throughout the years from many different artists, whenever they've stumbled across a hit of some sort, they've always been sort of surprised that it happened. I don't think usually when these hits happen, it's maybe the right time at the right place. There's all these little factors that sometimes make a hit, right? I mean, unless you know that, getting this person involved, let's just say Desmond Child, for example, involved will give you a better chance of having a hit, let's just say. Then other than that, I mean, getting a hit song is really a crapshoot. So I don't think it mattered if it was Peter, Gene, or whoever was singing it. I just think that the deck was sort of stacked against them in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
Where was the Disco Demolition? That was the night
Chicago?
Disco died. That was July the 12th, 1979. But I Was Made for Loving You was still a hit, with its disco tinge rock.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of luck that goes into these things. To put out a disco rock hybrid at the moment disco is dying, and still to have a hit is one of those cool things. Peter had a moment. Peter had a very important moment as far as history goes.
Yeah.
But don't forget too, a lot of this also, don't forget about the whole payola thing. Look at Floyd with Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. That song is has so much traces of disco in it, that disco drum beat in there. They purposefully put that in there. But of course, they also paid a lot of people in the DJ circles to play that, to ram it down people's throats. That song, would it have been as popular if they hadn't have done that? Who knows? We don't know, right? But it happened. It was all over the books. Read that book, The Hitmen. They talk about that a lot in there. How much payola played a factor in what people like, because people are sheep sometimes. You play it enough times, 100 times a day, to somebody, you're going to love it.
Yeah, and it doesn't always work, because Kiss spent like $148,000 to promote The Elder and The World Without Heroes.
That didn't work.
They had the A&R and PR guys, out there $300, $800 a week.
Listen to this, play this song.
Money can't buy you everything. So there we go. One last topic for the day, and this is one that tinges again on our non-Kiss loves and passions. And this is a topic by 32 Deuce, who asked, Kiss plus your 4 other favorite bands of all time. Kiss is our favorite band. Well, some of ours.
Wow.
What are 4 other bands that make up your 5 favorite bands of all time? Ken, let's start with you.
Okay.
And let's change that to artists, so that you can have some of those solo people that you love so much.
Oh, I can do artists now? Now you really screwed my list. Okay, that's all right. I would like just to say that I think the Beatles are the greatest band of all time. Though Kiss is my favorite band, but I think the Beatles are the greatest band of all time. Anyway, just put them aside, because it's just, to me, it's automatic for them. All right, so other ones for me, some of my favorites are...
Taylor Swift?
Yeah, no.
Adele?
Electric Light Orchestra, Steve Miller Band is a big one for me. Alice Cooper Band, more so that one part of the, and regular Alice Cooper. That's a few right there. If you're gonna say artist, I really love Neil Sedaka. I just love that stuff. I love his old stuff, and so
About Linda?
And yeah, see, then the list goes on. You got Linda Ronstadt, and then you got.
Oh, come on! You can't narrow it down really to your 5 favorite, including
No, I can't. I mean, Rush is kind of up there.
I always found that hard to believe.
Blue Oyster Cult. There's a lot of different stuff that I like, but
I don't know.
It's very difficult.
That's such
so
a trigger point for me. This whole topic, because
Down
I
the list.
I have always arguments with people about this. How could you not know what your favorite bands are? You know,
I can't
we're at
because
the age
so
now
much
where we
change.
know what we like and what we don't like. You know,
Well, I did a couple artists there, and not just bands. So Linda
Right,
Ronstadt.
but we're also at the age where we start
Oregon
forgetting
Sedaka.
things and becoming indecisive, Mark. We're all approaching that age rapidly. Bill Phelps, Zappa, Hendrix, T-Rex, Kiss, Beatles. I can't get into Zappa, but there we are. Opal Archive had The Who, Deep Purple, Pistols, Pink Floyd. That's a great.
I can name mine.
I could probably name marks for him.
Hold on, I want to do a couple more from the audience first. LG Hooligan 77, Kiss, Deep Purple, Zepp, Foreigner, Beatles. That's some great picks again. One more, Austin, Van Halen, Beach Boys.
Yeah,
weren't Van Halen kind of the Beach Boys for the next generation?
Well, that was
Ramones,
the David Lee Roth
Grateful Dead
EP or whatever.
Yeah, so some great stuff there. All right, Mark, go. You're 5.
Very easy. My favorite band, Rush, followed by Yes, followed by Black Sabbath, followed by David Bowie, and then Kiss.
I had 3.
I pretty much figured all those. Yeah.
I didn't have Sabbath.
What about Genesis? Hey, what happened to Genesis?
I do like them, but they're not in my top 5. Just like Marillion are not in my
really
top 5 either. But that's the thing. See, Ken, you said you could pick it out, but why? Because I've always talked about these bands, and I've always said that these are my favorite bands. I don't flip flop with this stuff now.
No.
These are my favorite 5, and that's that.
I'm glad Kiss made your
go
5
play
top.
Fugazi right now. I mean,
I love that album.
Marillion out there. I'm more into kind of where they went right before Fish left. So Clutching is mine, and I absolutely love the Thieving Magpie live album, which was I guess the contract fulfillment. But you listen to Script, you listen to Fugazi, Script's surprisingly,
about the
very progressive
Glenn Miller band. The Glenn Miller band, orchestra.
All right, I got to do my 5. And I answered this in the thread, but it's easy. It's Aerosmith, Kiss, Def Leppard, Beatles, and Stones. And there are so many other bands that just come into the orbit of there. But the Beatles are just core. The Beatles, they're just DNA. Kiss
Elvis.
at this point is just utter addiction.
I was too young for the Beatles, though, for me.
It was around the house. It was Liverpool. It was everywhere. It was, mom wailing when John Lennon got popped. It was me bawling my eyes out when John Lennon got murdered. So the Beatles are elemental. Aerosmith, again, that was the hype of the reunion. And the first time I really got into a band and got, caught up in the hype, even though I wasn't the 70s fan, same as with Kiss. The Stones are a recent one.
Yeah, same here.
Because I was never into the Stones because
Same
they
here.
were from fucking London. They were Southerners. But it was only through Aerosmith and the work that went into that book that I really was digging into the bands and the groups that influenced them. Peter Green era Fleetwood Mac, a lot of the blues cats. And the Stones just became the soundtrack to both of those books, which I've completed to this point. And just to see them as, I'm not going to say equal to the Beatles, because they're on a different level in that they survived the death of Brian Jones, and they've been through all these incarnations. They've reinvented themselves over and over again. They've had ups, they've had downs, but they've always come back. Even 60 years in.
I got one question for you, Julian. I mean, the one thing when I talk about Beatles and the Stones, the reason why I think I like the Stones more than I like the Beatles is because I think that the Stones are a little bit more roughish. They're kind of like the blueprint for what Guns N' Roses was later. You know what I mean? Like I find that the Beatles are a little bit too kind of prim and proper for my kind of liking.
What would have happened to the Stones if they had had an Epstein? Epstein polished that leather. He made them take that leather off.
True.
He completely, that band in Berlin was a completely different band to what was then put into suits and ties and matching, you know, the R&B acts of the 50s with a lot of the same sort of stage choreography. The Stones didn't have that. They were coming from a completely different place in London, and their management and the people who latched onto them in the early days, they both come from a very similar place. When you look at the early Stones albums, mixing a lot of the American blues, covers, just like the Beatles did with a lot of their early albums, had all these great covers, the Little Richards, etc. from the 50s. So they were both doing very parallel things.
Yeah, agreed.
Great bands. There's no wrong answer to what are your 5 top bands.
Yeah, of course.
Or artists.
There's so many great, artists and
music's fucking awesome. And if I'm only discovering, I'm discovering bands like Sword. I mean, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I'm always discovering new bands all the time. It's great.
Yeah, I didn't start listening to Merciful Fate and King Diamond until the last decade, and groups like Satan. Holy shit. Just, there is always new. Go down to a used record store and like I did in the 80s, flip through those things looking for nothing, and then an Angel album cover catches your eye because of the design of that, that first album cover, and you buy it. You don't know who the hell Angel is, and I was
the blind buy.
I was buying Angie's because I could tell what the logo was.
Yeah.
So
I did that with Motley Crue with their very first album on Leather Records. Hadn't even heard it, but I saw the album cover and I bought it. And
nice.
That was before they were even on radio or anything yet.
Yes.
Satanic Majesties is a great album. Beggar's Banquet. Anything kind of that run up to Exile on Main Street is just beyond superlatives. They just hit a stride there.
Sticky Fingers is good, yeah.
There's only one album I don't like, and that's I cannot get into Black and Blue.
Yeah, that's an odd album, that record, But apparently it's known to be the best sounding record to audiophile people, apparently. So
I ain't listening to it. If I don't have to, I'll go throw Tattoo You on. I'll go throw Some Girls on. Too. I'll go throw Steel Wheels on. Bridges to Babylon.
Did you get, Julian, at all that release that came out not too long ago, the one of the Live at the Elma Combo, the 76 or 78 show that they did? It's really good. It's really good.
No, there's some bands that I can listen to and all their live albums, just like Rush, queue up all their live releases because they go very, very deep. And I'll just listen to them cycle through the whole thing. Iron Maiden, I'll listen to all their live stuff, just queue it up. Judas Priest, same goes for them because of all the deluxe stuff they put out in recent years. There's now a ton of live releases. Same with Kiss, for that matter, up to Symphony. And then forget it. I'm skip. Yeah, then I'm out. So you ask me on another day, Def Leppard's always going to be there. Beatles are always going to be there.
Yeah.
Kiss is there, but Kiss hurts sometimes. So,
yeah.
Emotions.
Last question, Julian. Are you getting the new box set that's coming out, the new big Beatles one, the Capitol record releases?
No, I've already got a box set for Capitol US releases.
Oh, okay. This is a vinyl one that's coming out.
Yeah, what do I need the vinyl? I've got.
I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I had both. They were the long box ones for Capitol US releases, Collection 1 and Collection 2. I had both of those, so I don't need anything else. The Beatles stuff is interesting. On my iPhone, I've got Red Album, Blue Album, and the deluxes of Abbey Road, Revolver, a White Album, All Things Must Pass, Harrison. I don't have as much. It's weird. I was a big John Lennon fan growing up, but I haven't bought any of his stuff, and I haven't.
Are you going to get it, Ken?
No. I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. You'll be able to buy them individually too.
Yeah,
I guess they say so.
Yeah.
It's possible.
The answer to that is Get Your Wings.
Yes, that's a great album.
Toys is fantastic, but Get Your Wings is punk.
I like Toys.
SOS, Lord of the Thighs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great record.
Toys is my favorite.
Yeah, but throw on rocks. All right, that's it. That's a whole bunch of non-Kiss stuff, a bunch of stiff stuff from the board this week. If we've offended you or upset you with anything, please call 1-800 fast forward over it, because we're not saying anything to deliberately offend or annoy. We're just talking as friends.
Who cares?
Life's too short to get upset. All right. I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to chime in with comments. There's been a ton today. Thank you for joining us live. But for now, from Ken, from Mark, for MIA, Lonnie, and the angry, offensive Swede, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ Message Board and discuss the topic we broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.